All right, 8.9, we're describing correlation. So correlation is describing how the data moves together, right? Does the data all move up? Does the data all move down? Um, so positive correlation is, how do I want to say that? Both variables increase. Now, if we're thinking about this, this is also, you could describe it as slope. So it would be a line that goes up, right? It's positive, right? And then we could say, well, as the x increases, the y also increases. Negative 1 increases, one variable, 1 decreases. And again, we could talk about this with a line. We've got a line going kind of downhill, right? Our x gets bigger and our y gets smaller whenever we're talking about that line. Now, no correlation, so this is all these should have positive correlation, negative correlation, and no correlation. No correlation does not go with slope. So if you're using that idea of slope for your positive and negative, you can't use it for no correlation, because no correlation does not mean no slope. It means that your data doesn't really follow a trend, right? So we could say no trend. Whenever you're looking at the data, it might be all over the place. Right? The data doesn't look like it forms a line or anything like that. So again, what we're going to be looking here is we're going to be seeing, well, does the data trend, does it all go together up? Does the data all go together down? Or does the data not make sense with each other at all? So state if there appears to be a positive, negative, or no correlation. So number 2, I look at this and I look at my data. Normally I look at it from left to right. So I say, well, the data kind of makes a little bit of a line, right? You got to think of it as being a line. And this line would be going down, so this is negative correlation. Right? You could also think of it using that definition, the y variable decreases as the x variable increases. So number 3, we'll look at this one. Again, we could kind of draw a little bit of a line going through it, right? This is called like a best fit line. It's not a very precise best fit line, but it is a best fit line. We'll talk more about best fit lines in the next one. But it's kind of going downhill. So again, we're going to say negative correlation. All right, next up. Number 4. We look at this and does the data kind of make a shape with it? It doesn't necessarily make a line, but you could say that it makes something like that, right? And that would be going downhill. It's kind of, if you were to turn it into a line, it would be going like that. So again, this would be negative. All right. Number 5, good grief. Are all these negative correlations? Okay, no. This one again, really easy to see, negative. All right, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that all 4 of these were going to be negative. You can kind of see that number 2, this one up here, and number 5, they look really similar. Number 3 and number 4, the data kind of starts to not follow the line perfectly, right? So in the next lesson, we're going to talk about different ways that we could approximate the data. We could either say, well, this is a line, or we could say it's going to be like a swoop or something like that. And we'll talk more about that in the next one. So number 6. All right, this one should be relatively easy. We look at it, the data kind of follows that trend. This is a positive correlation. Next up, does the data follow a trend in this one? What I would say is I'd say no. I'd say no correlation. Let me make sure that's what CUDA says. Just to make sure I have, yeah, no correlation. Because I start off looking at it, I'm like, oh, well, there's a line like that. And then I'm like, well, what about this guy up there? I'm like, well, maybe it could be a line like that. I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense. So this one's going to be no correlation. Right? We could say that if it wasn't for that guy up in the top, it might have a line like this. But because of that guy, we can't really draw a line like that. Number 8. Could we draw a line through this? Or could we draw something through this? Oh, I'm like, well, maybe I could draw a line like that, but then I've got all these guys up here. Well, maybe I could draw a line like that, but then I've got all these guys down here. So again, this is going to be a no correlation. All right, number 9. We look at this. This one's kind of an easier one. We can draw our line like that. This is going to be a negative. Negative correlation. Number 10. All right, this one's where it kind of gets a little bit off. We could draw a swoop through this one. A line wouldn't really work, but we could draw a swoop like this, and it would go up. Kind of think about the coronavirus curve, the exponential curve that we see. I don't know if people are still showing graphs about that. But yeah, that exponential curve, this is a positive. All right, number 11, it's kind of going downhill, and this is going to be a negative. All right, there's that. This one isn't this lesson as a whole isn't super crazy. We just have 3 options: positive, negative, and no correlation. Remember that you can draw a swoop through it, or you could draw a line. The line ones I think are easier to see, but some of them will require you to draw a swoop. So, all right, that's that.